So hi everyone and welcome to this week's Orchestrator meeting. So what do we have on the agenda? So we definitely I would like to definitely look into the Ceph ADM agent a bit more. Trying to figure out what we need to do and if we need to do it and what are the gains, and then if yes, how and what does it impact the architecture? Do we have any other topics for today that we could discuss? I mean, please add them to the Etherpad, as always. Hi, Sage.
Good morning.
So, yeah, Ceph ADM agent. So the problem is that the reconciliation loop that we have in Ceph ADM doesn't scale, right? It's anything we are going to do is kind of bound by creating SSH connections and then creating executing stuff on the host and then going to the next host. I mean, we are doing it in parallel with 10 hosts at the same time, but still it's going to be slow, especially for the dashboard, for users that want to have kind of up-to-date information. And if we want to have fast failover in a few seconds, then we're also going to need to improve here. Is it worth it? I think so, yes. Any other opinions?
I think it's worth it.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's the most important question, right? If we would have decided that no, it's not worth it, then we could just skip everything and
Go
have and go home. Yes.
Forget it. No, but I think that it also is worth to comment what are going to be the responsibilities of the Ceph daemon. What things do we expect from the Ceph daemon?
Yes. So where are the biggest gains that we can get, right? And how should the architecture look like? I know that we have the current architecture of the Ceph ADM agent or daemon is like providing a simple API endpoint that's scraped from the Ceph ADM manager module. But I do not think this is going to be the best way to leverage the Ceph ADM. Mainly because we are still going to have a reconciliation loop that goes to every host. And instead of creating an SSH connection to every host, we are creating an HTTP or HTTPS connection to every host. So we are gaining a lot less, at least from a algorithmic complexity perspective. It's still O of n. If we go the other way around and say, yes, let's push information from the Ceph ADM daemon to the manager module, that would be much more performant, and then we can actually decide what we want to do with the Ceph ADM agent or daemon.
Yeah.
Think
Okay.
Gaining a lot more flexibility.
I think that, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it'll be a little bit weird if you haven't heard, like it'll be unclear what the manager should do if it hasn't heard from the agent. Like, should it go and poke at it to like make sure it has up-to-date manager address, or maybe both push and pull work, and so it can pull if it needs to if it hasn't heard from it recently. But if the agent is like responding or sees a change, it can immediately push. Like that might be the nice way to do it.
We are gaining a lot of new failure modes and a lot of new complexity.
If we do both, you mean?
No, even just
in
if
general.
we only,
Yeah.
In general, the loop that we have right now is that simple. So we are, in any case, we are gaining a lot of new failure modes. So right now, Ceph ADM, the reconciliation loop is really dependent on the order of things, right?
I guess my suggestion would be to start by making, like we should be thinking ahead so that we're not preventing ourselves from doing something later, but we should focus on making the reconciliation loop initially just like all the refresh. Like first have the agent maintain all the node state on the current containers and the devices and the facts, and just have that be the thing that's being pushed to the manager in a scalable way. And then the manager can still actually take action using the existing loop, which I think is okay. Yes. Like if you're deploying 1,000 OSDs, it'll be slow, but like that's less of an issue, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it still is very problematic because first, let's imagine we had that race condition already. Imagine you did the reconciliation loop and you want to deploy a new manager on host 1. And then we have a race between the agent and the Ceph ADM manager module. The next thing that happens is the agent goes over all the daemons and aggregates the information about which daemons are running on one specific host. The next thing that happens is that the manager daemon deploys a new manager on host A, and finally the agent pushes the information about its aggregated state into the manager module. And suddenly the manager module kind of forgets that it ever had deployed a new manager on host 1 or host A. So we are gaining a lot of new race conditions here. We have to be super careful. That the information
this might be a reason to stick with a pull model.
But that doesn't help. It doesn't help. The existing.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't help. If the agent kind of caches the information, then we have a race condition between the cache of the agent, then the manager deploys a new daemon, and then the agent returns the cached result.
But I think that probably this is just an implementation detail, okay? It's something that is going to happen, and probably what the things that we need to do is to avoid any kind of change in the manager when you have pending operations, okay? Or you are going to put in some way to signal that you are doing an operation and it's not possible to change the manager until this operation has finished, okay? Or for example, block the manager, okay, in order to get new operations until certain condition has been finished, okay? So I think that we have several ways to do that. I think that what is most important in this moment to have a high level view of what we need, what are the responsibilities of the agent, and what model is going to be used. I think my vision is that having the Ceph daemon running in each host and communicating the information to the manager is, I think that this is the push model, okay, not the pull model, is the right way to do that in order to reach scalability, okay? And we are going to leave part of the complexity that we have now in the orchestrator in the daemon module, the Ceph daemon, because in the Ceph daemon, the things, for example, running daemons, for example, what is the hardware composition of if there is any kind of change, or even the deploy of new daemons in the host, we can delegate all these things in the Ceph daemon. And the Ceph daemon, I think that could be more easy to do these kind of things, and at the same time to simplify the orchestrator. So
Yeah, but does it really simplify the orchestrator? I don't think so. It's going to be more complicated. I guess it's worth it, but we have to be super careful.
Yeah.
And that's why I really do not want to enable the current daemon implementation, because it's prone to that race. And I know we had that race already between the Ceph bootstrap command that deployed managers and stuff, and the manager module, and we had a race, and it was and that has a result of sometimes deploying two managers on the same host.
Yeah, I mean, I think that particular race we can resolve with some variation of a Lamport clock, so we know if the information that's being reported in is older than whatever.
Yes.
So I think we should. I think we can set that aside, and we'll get to it. For when we do the agent does a push, is it just going to use like the manager, like the CLI, basically, just issue a CLI command?
Does it matter? We can either create a new.
It needs authentication, right? If it doesn't do that, then we have to have like a REST endpoint and like have an SSL certificate or something. I don't know. Like there needs to be some sort of security around it.
Yeah.
So I guess we could do that. Yeah.
We can make it an API endpoint, right? With proper client authentication, that would work.
I guess that would be more secure, lighter weight, more efficient. But
that would. Ceph already has its own key rings.
Yeah.
Can you make the daemon part of the cluster and use its
CLI.
own way to communicate?
I mean, we could just give it a key and a client ID and give it a capability that says it's allowed to run the Ceph ADM command, and then it could just do Ceph ADM agent report -I and then a bunch of stuff.
That's a lot of. But why should we do that? It's much more easier to just push to an HTTP endpoint.
Yeah, we could do that too. Yeah, the other thing with that is that then it needs to run inside a container. I guess this is a dumb question, but this should run outside the container, right? Because it has to do a bunch of stuff on the host, right?
Yes.
So it's probably going to be basically, it'll be the Ceph ADM binary, it'll be Ceph ADM agent. Basically.
Yeah, that already exists.
Yeah, okay.
It's just called exporter instead of agent, but yes.
Yeah, and we probably need a way to kill it reliably. So when it starts up, the first thing it should do is like write a PID file somewhere so that we can stop it. So there's also
if
the
it's
Ceph ADM stop agent command.
if it's hooked into systemd, then we can use systemd.
Yeah. Okay, right, systemd. Yeah, sense. Okay.
This would actually simplify the existing Ceph ADM binary, because right now it creates an endpoint, but it is super complicated because the Ceph ADM binary doesn't have any libraries that it can reliably use. So it has to do everything by its own. By
push model,
by making it a push thing, we only need client capabilities in the Ceph ADM daemon, and that makes it much more simpler.
Yeah, I think there's no reason to implement like a pull, because we can just run it, right?
Yes, we can just run it. And long term, I think the goal would be to just reduce our dependency on SSH.
You also make a command that will just like poke it, like a reload or something like that, if you reload it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm concerned about load spikes. If you have all hosts simultaneously trying to push information to the manager is getting overloaded.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the data, there shouldn't be that much data, right? Like, few pages of JSON.
No, but the manager is already overloaded with the Prometheus module and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. They're looking at changing the Prometheus model so that it goes. But yeah.
I think it's kind of easy to cope with it, right? We just have to, if it turns out that the connection times out, then we have to have a random amount of seconds or minutes to back up, and then try later on.
So here's the problem with the push model based on an HTTP endpoint, is that the manager moves around, right? And so if we still need to issue a key to the agent so that it can either ask the monitor what the latest manager address is, if it gets a failure to post.
As we always are going to. On the other hand, we still have more than one manager available. So
yeah, it could ask one of the other ones.
We could use standby modules, right? Similar to the dashboard.
Yeah, I mean that'll probably cover most cases, but we can't rely on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is creating a lot of new failure modes where we have to think about and do the right decisions, right? Everything is possible to solve, but it's not easy. It's not straightforward.
Well, what is the information that we are going to manage? Basically, the hardware information of the host and the information of the daemons that are running in the host.
Yes.
Is that? Okay, so I think that, it's something that is, hardware is basically static, okay? So if we have just a timestamp in order to see if we have very old information or not, we can deal with that, maybe. And in the case of the daemons, maybe we need to think a little bit more. But basically, is well, there is like the list of daemons that must be running in this host, and this is the daemons that the host has communicated that are running. So I think that well, it's not very dynamic the information that we need to interchange.
Yeah, but still, it's prone to races, and having a solution that 99% works is going to create a lot of headaches. If we have multiple monitors deployed on a single host, where you only want to have one monitor or stuff like that, right? So we are creating. We have to be sure that we are not prone to races. And then, yeah, there are plenty of ways to do that, right? What, Sage, was your proposal to have some kind of a, which clock is it? It's a
Lamport
yes,
clock.
Lamport clock. That would solve it. Romega, do you know that concept?
What, sorry, which concept?
Lamport clock.
No.
Lamport. Here, I'll send you a link. Logical clock. There you go. There'd have to be basically some coordination between whenever we call Ceph ADM on a remote host, we'd have to pass along a timestamp that gets recorded somewhere on that local host. And the agent, whenever it does something, would have to record that, check that, adjust it, and so on. So
yeah.
But I think something like that would work.
Yep. Hmm. Do we need to have a large-scale refactorization of the Ceph ADM binary in order to do that?
I don't think so.
I also don't think so. I think it kind of works.
Yeah.
I don't like it pretty much, but I think it's doable.
I haven't looked at the current exporter code at all, but is there anything valuable there, or can we just like rip it out and re-implement?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Because I mean, one of the things that I keep like putting this on my list and meaning to fix it, and then going and looking at it, and then not doing it. Because right now there's a list networks command that I rely on to get information about Ethernet interfaces and subnets and stuff. And then there's also a gather facts command that it was part of the exporter, I think, but I can't actually tell what uses it. I think maybe the config checks use it or something. I'm not sure. But they're gathering like slightly different information or the same information in slightly different ways.
Yes.
And it should just be consolidated into one like gather facts.
Yeah, Paul was pretty demanding when it comes to introducing a new way of doing the same thing. Kinda.
Yeah.
But he had good reasons to, right? He had good reasons to do so. And yeah, no, we can actually leverage a lot of things like the integration into systemd is good. So all the basic stuff is there, and we can leverage. So we have a head start when it comes to introducing the push model. But everything that's related to providing the endpoint is a bit problematic. Gather facts is actually stored in the manager module already, so we just have to expose it. It's there. And we should probably add it to Ceph Orch host.ls, I guess. But other than that, it's already there.
Yeah. There's just a bunch of cleanup.
I think with a push model, and we have a fail daemon, we could achieve failovers within a few seconds.
Yep, agree.
I think that's
because basically as soon as the manager module gets a push, it could just wake up the reconciliation loop.
exactly. Not in all circumstances, but more or less.
Yep. Maybe with the slight delay so that there's a bit of batching.
Yeah.
And similarly, the agent can only push if there's an actual change that it observes between its last successful push.
Yeah.
So hopefully idle most of the time.
And the agent should avoid pushing information to the manager every few seconds if we have a flaky daemon. It's also a new failure mode that we have to care about.
Oh, where it's like flopping or something. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much solved by systemd already. So if we have a daemon that's failing constantly, then the systemd unit is going to be in an error state soon.
Yeah.
Didn't we have that problem with OSDs? That sometimes OSDs come into the cluster and go outside of the cluster in a very short succession?
Yep. Yeah, if they're causing each other to crash, they can get crash loops and thrashing or whatever. So there's like a backoff mechanism and then monitor for OSDs. Make them mark down.
Why was it not catched by systemd?
This is all predate systemd by many years, but also it wasn't just related to a single daemon necessarily restarting. Well, I guess it did, but just remember, I think it wasn't always that the daemon actually stopped. It was just that the cluster was marking it down because of load or something like that. And then the OSD would try to mark itself back up, and then that would trigger whatever.
Okay.
There are a couple different failure modes.
But that's not a big problem for us from a management perspective.
Yeah. So I wonder, the tasks would basically be add an endpoint, add ceph_adm command to results point ceph_adm agent mode. We'll import clock. Port.
The idea is to get the current Ceph_adm exporter and put it isolate in a container. No?
No container. We have to we can't put it into a container because at some point it would be great to have the capability to actually deploy daemons on that host with the agent. And if we want to do that, we can't put it into a container.
Yeah, I mean, I think the agent will have to run the Ceph CLI inside a container, like shell, but it'll actually be running on the host.
Yeah, but the daemon itself should not be run inside of a.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of weird because if somebody stops the systemd unit for the agent, there has to be basically some timeout on the manager should say, if I haven't heard from the agent in the last 5 minutes, then I'll go do a pull, which will include the status of that, whatever that service, start the agent if necessary or whatever it is, right?
How do we detect offline hosts?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know what we do right now.
I mean, we can't just wait for the host to respond, right? If it is gone, we have a network connection error, net split, or if the host just dies.
Yep.
How can we do that?
I mean, if we make the agent check in at regular intervals, and then if it doesn't check in, then we do a poll attempt. And if the poll fails, then we mark the host offline. Which is basically, I think, more or less what it does now, right? If we just try to do the poll and we hit an error, then we mark it offline. Yeah. I think all that will work basically the same.
We still need some reconciliation loop, but not to actually SSH to the host, but just check if the host never pushed any information.
And what about to push a keep alive token or something like that? Just a signal. I am alive.
Yep, it should do that, definitely. But if we don't get that, then we go and we check the host, try to redeploy or restart the agent. Not running.
Yeah.
Do we make it so that the manager can actually scrape things directly, or should the only data path be to start the agent and let the agent phone in?
Are we there yet? Can we rely on it? I would say we have to at some point. Do we want to go full in and just rely on the agent from day one?
It would be only one mode of operation, which would be kind of nice.
Yes. Yeah.
And the deploy process could be well, down here I said that like one of the tasks would just basically be a CLI command that will just explicitly imperatively run the gather fax code and phone it home. So that could be the thing that the push, or not the push, the pull does. Or it could do that, I guess, but it's still a little different. I mean, I guess the failure mode that we would be worrying about is if for some reason the endpoint isn't responding, like there's a firewall or something is blocking you from being able to post to the whatever the cherry pie endpoint or whatever it is, whatever it's going to be. I don't know.
Do you plan?
And if someone has a broken firewall configuration, that just as soon as we have a manager failover, then suddenly it can be that the agent can no longer access the new manager because the firewall rule only provides access to that single manager.
I guess so this thing where it goes to SSH into the host and restart the agent should do a test also to like make sure that it can contact the callback to the manager and make us successful.
Do you plan to expand this into clients of the Ceph cluster, or just members of the Ceph cluster on day one?
Just the members.
I mean, we can later expand it to also deploy daemons. That would make OSD deployment super fast.
Yeah.
Because at that time we can deploy all OSDs in the cluster at once. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I think no particular hurry there.
And that would mean we could deploy all the crash daemons all at once. To a point where we are overloading the the registry if we have an internal registry or the network. So we have to be careful when we are going to do that in, later on. But what happens if the manager is overloaded and cannot accept pushes from the agent to a point where we are missing keep alive timeouts or liveness timeouts? Are we going to then thrash?
Could be.
Imagine we have a 5-minute timeout where agents need to push information every 5 minutes, and we have a load spike in the manager that prevents the manager from accepting proper connections for a time period of maybe 5 to 6 minutes. And at that time, we are marking all hosts as offline. And then starting to create SSH connections to all hosts that would make it even more likely that we are overloading the manager. Is that a problem that we need to care about?
I think maybe not yet.
I think that means to have some kind of control over the load of the endpoint in order to see if you are in a situation of saturation or not, okay? And depending on that, just checking if you are saturated, maybe has no sense try to connect with different hosts to see if they are alive or not, because you are in a situation that you know that no, you are not processing requests. So we need some kind of control of the saturation.
I'm a bit scared of load spikes, where all hosts at once are trying to push information onto the manager, making the manager overloaded. I'm a bit scared.
I mean, I think I don't know what library we use for the REST endpoint, but we can make it like only accept a single connection at a time, and just have them like retry, wait or whatever. So that'll throttle it a little bit.
Are we going to directly push information to the monitor within HTTP connections? We probably should not, and only return information that is available in the memory of the manager to make it fast.
Sorry, say that again.
Should we fetch or push information to the config key store from within the connection handler?
Oh, I see.
Or should we only store information into the memory of the manager and then having a different thread push information to the config key store? Should we write or read directly from the config key store from within the REST endpoint connection handler?
Yeah, I think by doing it asynchronously makes more sense. Otherwise, it won't scale very well.
If we're making it asynchronously, then we're going to create another huge list of ways to create race conditions.
Yeah. Well, maybe for the first implementation, just do it synchronously. I mean, I think if config key is getting slow, then there are bigger problems. And then maybe you actually want to slow things down.
Mm-hmm. That's all I can think of. All problems that I can think of right now.
What about an upgrade path from, say, octopus-based clusters to, and then also like, old agent to new agent?
It's the post message could just have a version or something. And we can either interpret a post from an old agent and adjust it accordingly, or we can say, oh, there's an old agent, and then trigger a redeploy of that agent and ignore it. I think either one would be fine.
Downgrades.
Yeah, I guess same thing.
Should we make it so that instead of a version, should we use a hash?
Yeah, I was just thinking that it can use the same hash as the whatever that we use in the file name and compare that on the manager side. And if it doesn't match, then redeploy the agent. Yeah.
It's going to make the upgrade a bit slower, right? Because before we can actually do anything, we have to redeploy all the agents.
Yep.
After
that'll be pretty quick. It'll only happen once.
depending on your definition of quick or fast or slow.
Yeah.
But yes.
I mean, we have to redeploy all the crash demons also, so it'll be like one more stage, more thing to redeploy. This one will just happen to be the first thing that happens. We'll probably have a similar issue that we had before, where it's not just the version that's running, but also which version it's deployed by. I guess it's always deployed by itself. Actually, never mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in this case, I think that the important is the message, not the version of the emissor of the message. If we have a very clear format for the message in order to communicate hardware, in order to communicate diamonds information, it doesn't matter what is the version of the sender of the information,
Yeah.
of the
Well,
receiver. So
But we're still going to want to redeploy the daemon so that it matches those, so that the agent is running the latest code.
yes, but I see that this is more a problem in the upgrade procedure of the cluster and the different daemons that are running in the cluster, and not about the communication of this information. I think that we can avoid a lot of problems if we are very strict with the information that we are passing, and to keep this information in the same version. And well, it doesn't matter too much what is the version of the sender. It's my view. But
Yeah. Okay.
well, we have a list of tasks, very high level tasks. Okay, so it would be nice, at least for me. Okay, I need more explanation of this task in order to have more clear what are the things that we need to do. And I think that maybe it is good to just to try to assign this task to different people in the team. And let's see when we can start with that. Okay, maybe I think that when Sage or Sebastian, you are the best people in order to clarify the details of the task. Okay, so well, I think that maybe we can try to start the assignation and to see if we can start to work with that. My idea.
I have a question about the REST endpoint part. I seem to remember there was some weird thing where we're using CherryPy for both for Prometheus and for the dashboard or something like that, and it doesn't like having two instances of like some static variables or something.
Yes.
Wasn't there some problem like that?
I know that CherryPy really wants to kill the manager.
Yeah.
If CherryPy fails to bind a port, it calls sys.exit.
So maybe, I mean, should we not use CherryPy? Is there like?
But I think in the dashboard we mocked that the
Yes.
sysexit call just to avoid that.
Yes. Should we? I kinda dislike the fact that we are creating yet another endpoint.
Yeah. It's the same thing that everything else uses.
Should we just have one web server that's used by different manager modules? Well, that would be kind of a complete re-architecture.
Microservices one. Yeah, I think we could. Probably more of a coincidence thing, right? We want to rethink that.
Yeah, I think the better option is to split the manager apart into every container has its own manager module. I think that's a better long-term way of doing things.
Yeah. Okay.
That would mean that for now we have to make every module as independent as possible, right? Because that would allow us to have a strategy where we are splitting up the manager more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a long way away, and there are going to be a lot of issues to get there. So I wouldn't worry about it, but I wouldn't make the problem worse. It seems like the simple thing is just to add a new port, bind to a new port for Ceph ADM only, so that it operates in isolation.
Do we actually have to live in the manager, or can we can Ceph ADM live in its own container?
It's better living in the manager because then we have access to everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about the Prometheus module? Should the Prometheus module live in a different container? Just asking.
I don't think we should be worrying about containers manager. I don't think we should re-architect the manager.
Yeah, I was just asking. I think we are close to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's it for today. Except if we have something urgent to discuss. Doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, then. Have a nice week.
All right.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.